Kalimera, that's not the last Greek words that you hear from me, but despite the fact that I had 6 years of ancient Greeks on school, I must do this in English, but I know that's perfectly fine with you. That's just another sign of your perfect hospitality here in Greece. That's in your DNA. For the next half an hour or so, I'm going to talk to you about exponential technologies and what it means for tourism and mobility, which is very important for tourism. And that's something that is a big problem that always comes up with human beings, this exponential development, things that come very rapidly, much more rapidly than we expect. And we humans are not so very good to cope with these kind of exponential changes, which has to do, we cannot help that. That's something that happened in evolution. We are linear thinking human beings. So in evolution, when there was a deer running like this, we know that we had to shoot the arrow like that so that it would encounter the deer a bit further. So we had to shoot a little bit ahead. That's all linear and approaches, etc. And that's something that we are very capable in. But exponential, we do not really understand. Exponential comes very slow, but at a certain moment it comes hard. That means, for instance, if something doubles every time, we always underestimated how fast this goes. For instance, if you would have a drop of water in this hangar over here, and a second later you have 2 drops of water, and a second later 4 drops, 8 drops, 16 drops, it only would take about 30 to 31 seconds before the entire hangar would be filled with water. And about 20, 25 seconds later, you use all the water in the entire world. That's how fast it goes when things happen exponentially. And in the beginning, it's always a disappointment because it's slow. And then at a certain moment, it happens and it comes much faster. And we always underestimate this one. And we are amazed what's happening. And that's a bit what happens. One of these examples is the fact that although we always complain that the next generation will be worse off than this one, and things in the old ages decades ago used to be better, people get richer and richer in an almost exponentially way. And this exponential wealth, it's not only happening in Europe, it's everywhere happening, although like a bit behind. We have to work on the difference, but still people get richer by the year. That's still on a long term. There will be some hubs every time. But the thing is that the mobility and transport consequences for such a further developing world are, without any doubt, that people will travel further. That's in our genes. We want to explore. And once we have the opportunity, you always see this, when people have the opportunity to travel further, they will travel further. And the other thing is that we will also buy more stuff. We are hunter-gatherers, and it is hardwired in our brain that we will go farther and buy more stuff. And that's actually also happening, just to take one of the many problems of tourism, is of course that this comes with kind of a bit of troubles. By the way, I see some people making pictures of my slides. If you want to have a copy of my slide set, find me on LinkedIn, keep on the discussion. There will also be some challenging statements that I will make. So please find me on LinkedIn. You will have a copy of the slides, no problem. But this is just the carbon footprint of tourism. And the biggest one here is flying. And this is a problem that also, because we travel more, will also increase in the future. So we have to act. And the thing is that if big problems come towards humanity, we always see about mainly three different strategies that people follow. And the first one is a very popular strategy, even on political things, is just to hope for the best. We'll be fine. You know, climate has come up now. Finally, we in the Netherlands also have this fantastic climate as you have in Greece. Didn't really work out yesterday, but okay, it will be fine. Earth will be. Let's not spend too much time on this one. We should agree that we are doing some very dangerous chemical and physical experiments with the atmosphere and with the world, etc. And dangerous experiments can go right, but if they go wrong, we're too late. So there's another strategy that is quite popular, that we should be satisfied. We should consume less. We should stop growing. Post-growth, degrowth, whatever you have. This is very sympathetic, and we should also strive to limit the use of resources and everything. But this is also not a strategy that I have a lot of confidence in. For the first reason, because it doesn't work. There's no real successful track record of consuming less. Every progress that we achieved in the last centuries is not because we stopped using more, etc. We kept on using more. So I don't see it happening now as well. The other thing is that by definition, it's a part solution. If you consume a little bit less, like in the pandemic, we didn't travel, so we had 7% less CO2. So what should you then do to make that 20%? And then still you have to solve 80% of the problem. And the third one is that it's a little bit elitish. It's only people on the top of the pyramid say from now it's enough. And people at the bottom, where most of humanity is, never talk about degrowth. They still are on the verge to grow, and why not? They have the right to do so as well. It's like from people say, 5 times flying, that's a little bit too much. Let's all limit to two times flying per year. And the 82% of humanity that never has been in a plane should not start flying, this kind of thing. Just to just support my case, there was a big dream some decades ago. There was this new generation that wanted to degrowth, you know? The generation Y came up, say, beginning of this century. And then we had something like the Flugscham or the flight shame. They were probably not going to fly more because they had all this environmental sensibility. Now, okay, that's cool. But if you look at the figures, you see actually that they're also called the millennials over there. You see that they actually travel much more even than the older generations. And the next generation, the Generation Z, although they're still not yet in their 20s, they even travel more than the older people as well. So what you also see in research is that although they all claim, we are environmental sensible, etc., and we will fly less, they're not doing that in practice. That always has been shown. Actually, The Guardian already denounced flight shame as death. Having said that, then we remain still with this problem, and it might even grow. And therefore, if you think that you trust that the next generation will be fine, just look at the figures. Because in God we trust, and the rest has to prove with figures. We cannot trust that it automatically will go right. So if you see the cumulated annual growth rates that are predicted by all the sources, is that the tourist arrivals will keep on growing even faster than any other number. The aviation passenger kilometers will grow, and also the number of cars, because they also say that this new generation will not have cars. They will. Maritime freight and argotons, we keep on buying more stuff. That means, and this is an exponential development, every times 4% means that in 25 years, a problem will just double. So if we fail to act, the problem will double. That means actually that we have to go for a third, and that's innovate ourselves out of trouble. And that's always what we have done in history. And now again, we have to innovate ourselves out of trouble. And just picking this one thing of the flying. So how would we innovate ourselves out of trouble? A lot of people say we should stimulate people using trains. Now, I can be relatively short, especially if you're a country with a lot of islands. This is not really a sensible solution. But just to be short on this one, you can. And again, I challenge you, or I invite you to contact with me or the organization to share my slides. And there's a little bit of a study material over there why I explain that is not a sensible solution. And in the next 30 seconds, you don't have to follow me. I give you a very short wrap-up on why train is not an alternative for flight, even when you're not on an island. And that is this. A lot of people claim that flying is very bad for the environment and train is much better. And that's true if you only compare the climate things. This is the societal damage. So it's 0.4 for train only, and the climate effects of flying are much higher. But CO2 is just one part of the equation. There's so much more that also is being damaged in the societal. So if you also take the noise, which with trains is even higher than with planes, and also the habitat damage, because there's all this infrastructure you have to build, not for planes, but for trains, then you see the difference already smaller. And then there's one big thing that you also have to build infrastructure. And infrastructure always costs money. So there's a little bit low, but the total external cost, inclusive the cost of the infrastructure and also the subsidies, means actually that now already high-speed rail is a very much big societal burden than flying. So already today it's better to fly than to train. And if somebody disagrees with me, send them to me. I can handle. This is just a small wrap-up of something that's very complicated. You can forget about it. But the most important thing is that we still have a problem with flying. So should we fly electrically? Over there is another solution. Just take out the engines. That might also be a solution to make flying redundant, and probably all the passengers have to do. I don't know how that works. Electric flying might work, not in this way. We will see a bit of electric flying. My statement here is that it will be up to 50 people, and I think up to 500 kilometers. For the very small connections, and as they call it, regional air mobility. We just heard about the private jets, and I see a big future for relatively small airplanes This is also a nice source to do a little bit of studying how all these connections, these small airports, in Europe we have about 3,000 of smaller airports, might be connected electrically. It's a kind of a new way of doing your mobility. But it's not going to solve this kind of flying. That's not possible to do that electrically, also not in the future. For that, we have to go to, and you probably heard about that, making sustainable aviation fuels. Circular fuels, you can call them, or electrical fuels, or syn fuels, whatever you call them. It is fuel made out of electricity. You get CO2 out of the air, you get purified water, you get electricity, and there's a chemical process which is not too complicated. It's already possible today that actually you make your fuel. And yes, this fuel also produces CO2, but it's exactly the same amount of CO2 that you get out of the air when producing the fuel. So it's therefore a circular fuel. I have no doubt that this is going to be the future. It is not a question if this is going to be the future, but more when and at what cost. And that's a big discussion. And here's another underestimation of the things that are developing exponentially. Because actually the only component here is energy. CO2 getting out of the air is a known process. It only costs quite a bit of energy. So when energy gets cheaper, this fuel will get cheaper. And energy is getting that cheap. If you just look at another exponential development, this is the number of solar cells and the price of solar getting down in an exponential way. It doesn't look like an exponential figure, but that's because the axes are logarithmic. So we are producing so much solar cells and it goes at so low cost that at a certain moment, and we always underestimate this because we think linearly, and you also see that we overperform and we're going to almost free energy, which also means in due course that I think, and that's my statement, that actually these new fuels, and don't give me a term, I would estimate 25 years from now, we're already in the middle of it, that we have these synthetic fuels. The number one consequence of that one is that actually you can also scratch the climate damage out of this equation. And then, and you see it in the bottom right, the aviation is more or less neutral from a cost perspective, a societal cost perspective, something that trains will never, never, ever achieve. Therefore, my statement, summarizing the last minute, is that aviation will be the most sustainable way of mid and long distance travel, by far. These fuels, by the way, can also be used by cruise ships. Cruise ships have other problems that you probably know more of than I, but these are the same fuels that probably also will be used by shipping, at least scratching one problem out of the equation. So this is one statement of exponential things that I foresee in the future to come, that a lot of people do not see coming because of the exponentialism. The other one is on AI. That's actually Moore's law, which is also an exponential development, just claiming that actually computers get smarter twice as much every 1.5 years. This is just, here again, a logarithmic scale on the left. And just to visualize this, this is actually an impression of Moore's law. This is a 5 megabyte hard drive in 1956. 5 megabyte is about one song on MP3. So here you see one song being uploaded in an airplane, and nobody around that time would have thought of making music digitally. And that's the underestimation that when digitization comes, it started with the CD, and then the CD was disrupted by iTunes, and then iTunes was disrupted by Spotify. And that is how unpredictable things happen when digitization strikes. The fact that everybody now these days is talking about AI is that this intelligence growth is continuing, and it is starting to actually reach human intelligence more or less. So we should think about how we are going to cope in the future with these machines that get as clever as we are. And I also want to just highlight what I think that would mean for the tourism industry, because it changes the entire society and especially your industry, and I think for the better. The thing is that the definition of artificial intelligence, it's a little bit a difficult one, because a lot of people think from, oh yeah, AI is coming, but I don't know exactly what it is. You may be a little bit confused. You probably will be confused after my talk as well, but I hope you will be confused on a higher level, at least. And the thing is that a colleague professor of mine once, Dan Eyerly, he discussed it as and sorry, I'm just quoting here, artificial intelligence is somewhat like teenage sex. Everybody talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everybody thinks everybody else is doing it. So everybody claims they are doing it. So if you think from, oh, I'm missing the boat here because everybody does artificial intelligence and I don't mind too much. Everybody's in the same position here. Just as a definition of artificial intelligence, this is an important one. It is machines with goal-directed adaptive behavior, because that's the definition of intelligence. We have a goal in mind, that's what makes us intelligent, and we can adapt how we act in order to achieve that goal. So a classical machine, and that's just a summary of how artificial intelligence works, a classical machine says you have a program on your machine and there's an input in and there's an output coming out. With artificial intelligence, the fundamental difference is that you give it an input and you give it an output, and the machine itself will sort out how to achieve that output. And this is a little bit scary. So these machines start reprogramming themselves, and that's a real difference with classical computers. And when they reprogram themselves, they can also decide what to do. Now, these are just Boston Dynamic robots, humanoid robots, some robots we can identify with. And let's make them in order to put boxes on shelves, or, as we just heard, wash the dishes, because that's stupid work that we don't want to do. Now, because this is a humanoid robot, this is an interesting thing. I don't know if you recognize that you feel a little bit sorry for this robot. Huh? You have some sort of feeling for the robot. I don't want to stand in your way here, but you see that actually you might tend that if you were a programmer, you would also like to program or code a few lines that if the guy with the beard shows up and starts bullying you again, that you raise the mechanical middle finger or do something like that, you know? And that's something that we want to already project our human behavior to them. Or it gets worse. That's too bad for this robot. Eh? This is just a couple of machines and bolts and iron, etc. So there's really nothing happening here. Now it gets up, and then your coding comes in and it goes to find the guy with the beard. So the thing is that this is about, you probably have seen this on the YouTube. This humanoid is about 8 years old. And every 1.5 years, as I just said, it got twice as intelligent. So if you look at the more recent version of the same robot, same mechanics, only having software updates, you see this one. And it's the same one. It only got cleverer. Oh, I think this is a little bit too heavy. Yeah, that's my mistake. Oh, here we go. So that looks already more impressive. And now it starts playing around a little bit. I hope that works. Yeah. So far, the robots, and I can do this as well. But hopelijk, I cannot do that. I'm not going to leave the stage in such a way here. That's oh, you saw him doing this, huh? That's pre-programmed. As soon as robots start doing this to show off to other robots in order to heighten their chance for reproduction with other robots or something, then it gets scary. Then it's artificial intelligence. But there's a lot of artificial intelligence in this robot to be more stable, etc., and to do all these nice tricks that they can do. The thing is that now they start. What if they do the dishes, and what they do if they start taking over traffic, for instance, with the self-driving car? Then a lot of people say, yeah, that's good because they're better. Because they always follow the rules, and that's a little bit difficult. If you're in Athens traffic or even in Amsterdam traffic or whatever kind of traffic, nobody exactly follow the rules. If you're behind somebody who fully 100% sticks to the rules, you're quite annoyed, and that's not really fluent traffic, you know, especially in Athens. That's a total different not following the rules system. So what do you do in order to invite those robots into our society where not everybody follows the rules as strictly as other people? The thing is that you can do two things. The one thing is to condition, to prepare everything for automation. And that's just to make everything very predictable. An example of a conditioned state is a bowling alley, you know? A bowling is always predictable, and this is where machines are at its best. This is how AI works. You just say, try to make a strike, all pins in one throw, so it starts doing that, and it's a little bit clumsy, and at a certain moment it starts learning and reprogramming itself. until it knows perfectly how to do this. And then, because it's a conditioned state, it's always the same, pins always in the same order, there are no pedestrians. And probably this robot will be quite well in making it a very boring game as such. Okay. That's what it will come out. This is real AI. The other thing what you can do is that you also, because the thing is that if we would adapt the society to this kind of conditioning, then traffic in Athens, if everybody would follow the rules, would come to a complete standstill. Or you put traffic lights over there, that's a little bit of German response, to try to organize everything, then probably the throughput of traffic will go down. So our society is really turning, because we do flexibly interpret the rules. That's how good companies work as well. You have a goal, and it doesn't matter how you achieve this goal, as long as you do some rules, but not strictly follow your contract. And that's the thing. The other thing what you can do is that you, as we were just doing in your mind probably when you saw this robot being bullied, that we adapt the robots to the real world, and that you would allow the robots to also flexibly interpret the rules. And then is a little bit getting, I think, dangerous. So in the future, if we would allow these robots also to, like us, flexibly interpret the rules, it probably would lead to the next version of the Boston Dynamic robots as such. So, okay. Just to reassure you on this one, this is not Boston Dynamics, it's Boston Dynamics. You might have seen this on the internet. This is not real. It's nice to see the making of, because there's this guy in a green suit being really being kicked his ass and sort of. But exactly, this might summarize it well. If we just release AI and let it do what it wants, then we will end up doing the dishes, and they do the important work. They will, we will carry the boxes, and they will align us. So this is, to my point of view, how we should welcome this technology to do all the coloring inside the lines in a conditioned state. That's where automation should take place. And our only added value as human beings in the future might be that we are able to color outside the lines without things getting out of the hand. And this is something that you should apply, and how you should approach this new kind of technology of AI, because we should embrace it. And you probably worked with ChatGPT. Who worked with ChatGPT? Yeah? Oh, that's the third half of it. All the rest, start playing with it. It's nice, at least to get a grip what's happening on AI. But I had quite some fierce discussion. I had some good discussions with my wife, who is a teacher, Dutch, so language teacher, and she says, "Yeah, what's this ChatGPT about?" So my students cannot write an essay anymore because they ask ChatGPT, and they just hide some errors just to fool me. I know how they are, you know, etc. So what should I do with this? I said, that's good, because I work at the university, and my students, they work for 7 months on a project, and then 1 month is just writing a report, and now it's only 1 week, so they have 3 extra weeks to do the research where they really excel at. Okay, we didn't really come to an agreement where we normally always immediately agree on anything, but this is actually how you approach it. Making a report and writing and following just some guidelines is something that is coloring inside the lines. And what she now also sees already and worked with students is that actually, and if you work with ChatGPT, you ask it a question, it comes with a story, and that's not intended, and you then repeat the question, and the prompt, as they call it, the question mark, let's say. And then just at a certain moment, your prompt is so long that you actually almost already written it yourself. And that's the thing that happens. The genuine intelligence that we use, it moves to the prompt. And if you do so, and you leave a lot of work to the machines, the thing is then, that's the essential thing why you should work with AI, that it enormously improves your productivity with about 66%. Now, I also asked, I'm not a specialist in the tourism, I'm a very satisfied customer, especially here in Greece, but I also asked ChatGPT from, okay, what does it mean for tourism? And maybe there's one tip over there on the right corner, no yapping. If you add no yapping to ChatGPT, you don't get these very long, interesting answers. It keeps it very short and concise. This is a tip that's already worth listening to me half an hour. So that's one thing. But this is what it came up with. And then I asked Perplexity, that's also a tool, and I asked AI again, etc. And at a certain moment, I got about 4 lines where I really see that that there will be a lot happening in tourism. And it's these four. Hyper-personalization. AI knows the customer, although you don't know why and how, but AI will know your customer better than you do. So it also will enable you to personalize it much better. We will hearing about all the data that's available and how you should use it after the break. So take attention, because AI, when access to this data, will help you to personalize. The dynamic prices. It will be put much more intelligent dynamic prices and dynamic pricing can help with a large amount of problems, of course. Predictive analysis, it can predict what's happening in 6 weeks from now much better than you do, because it takes everything into account, even weather and all kind of other stuff. And it even does some VR, virtual reality or augmented reality pre-travel experience to just put extra experience on that one. Now, the two elements is that it will improve your productivity, but it also can improve the quality. And for those who haven't worked with AI tooling, we just had ChatGPT, but there's a very low barrier in order to just start playing around with it. This is just some of the tooling that you can play with. And they always have this free entry that the first couple of weeks you can just play with it for free, and then they ask a bit of money, but you can decide what to do with it afterwards. So I just call on you to start experimenting with all this stuff. One thing I experimented with is, it's not even on this list, is the tool HeyGen. I don't know if you know this, it's video to video. You heard me speaking now English for quite some time. And in the Netherlands, people even hear, you can hear I'm from the Netherlands probably through my English. In the Netherlands, they even hear that I'm from the south of the Netherlands, so I'm not very impressive. Now, HeyGen is a video to video that can have me talk any language. Just listen to me and be impressed. That's me last week in the United States somewhere. It's a bit shaky, but you get the point.
People at the Reimagine Tourism Congress. You will probably notice that I'm already speaking English much better than I was just a few seconds ago. And all of that is thanks to artificial intelligence. Με αυτή την τεχνητή νοημοσύνη μπορώ φυσικά να μιλήσω. Και ελληνικά, όπως ακούτε τώρα έχω κάνει 6 χρόνια αρχαία ελληνικά στο σχολείο μου, αλλά σήμερα μπορείς να κάνεις πολύ λίγα με αυτά. Αλλά τώρα νομίζω ότι πάει αρκετά καλά, αν και δεν μπορώ να το ελέγξω γιατί δεν το μιλάω. Ελπίζω να μην κάνω λάθη. Μπορώ να το εφαρμόσω εξίσου καλά και στα ρωσικά ή γαλλικά ή αγγλικά ή οτιδήποτε άλλο. Τι θα μπορούσε να σημαίνει αυτό για τη βιομηχανία τουρισμού? Αλλά είναι απλώς για να δείξω πόσο γρήγορα γίνονται οι βελτιώσεις με την τεχνητή νοημοσύνη. Τώρα θα επιστρέψω ξανά στα αγγλικά, αν δεν σας πειράζει.
Yeah, you don't have to applaud because it was not me. This wasn't me. I heard it say Anglicas, and I have to go back on stage. I hope that it's correct what it said. I cannot check it. I did the input in Dutch, and this is the thing. But just imagine how you can use this also for personalization and to watch your customers, etc. The thing is with this one, I also used this at our summit last year to welcome everybody, and I ended up with one key message from enjoy yourselves, and then. It's apparently, because I translated it back to Dutch, it says not enjoy yourselves, it translated as have fun with yourself. I said, oh, that's a little bit edgy, you know? And this is the other thing. AI makes mistakes, and most like they're funny. This was an AI engine that just could follow the ball during the pandemic so that the supporters of this club could see their club playing. But then they had a bold linesman, and the sun was shining on his head, so the AI constantly followed the person. And that's another thing. I can have another half an hour of all the mistakes that AI make, but this is just a lesson that you have to make. It moves to the prompt, the intelligence, but also to the checking. You have to do the checking at last. So AI is not going to replace people, but because of this huge potential in increasing quality and in productivity, people that work with AI will replace the people that cannot work with AI. And it's not as complicated as you thought, so please start experimenting. Does this mean that we're all out of jobs? Are they going to kick us out? And what kind of jobs are we going to do in the future? And this is a very important last message that I have, is that actually also what happened to farmers. We used to be all farmers, and now farmers is only 1 or 2% of the people. If you would have to explain 150 years ago to farmers what we are doing for kind of jobs now, that we even have emoji translators, you know, that's not explainable. And the essence of the jobs of the future is that they will be on top of Maslow's pyramid. All the bottom things, Maslow is what thrives us, you know, physical needs like food, water, and security, etc. And if we get the technology to sort that out, we can actually actually more or less focus on the top of Maslow's pyramid. And that's where the future are. And that's all about experience. And look what happened to the music industry. The music got for free. I paid a lot on CDs and LPs. My children have music for free. Yet they spend the same amount on music because they go to festivals and concerts much more than I did. Only the rich people used to have coffee. Now coffee, because of some logistical wonders, is almost free. Yet we pay €3 for a gluten-free frappuccino with a shot of caramel and your name written on it. All experience. And that's your business. The economy moves more and more to experience, and that's where you're at. So summarizing where we and the computers are, computers will do the bottom, they will do the coloring inside the lines in a conditioned state, in an unconditioned state. They have the written rules. We can flourish in the unwritten rules. We have to initiate the work and check the work, and they do all the work in the middle. That's the artificial intelligence, and we need more of our genuine intelligence. Recap, I'll leave you with this one. Wealth increases. Despite everybody saying that we are going to be far worse off, people will inherently travel more. So all the signs are in red, although you have some problems. The future is about experience, and that's in your DNA. That's a good movement. People will relatively spend more of their budget towards your industry. AI will increase productivity and improve quality, and experiment with all the tools that there are. It's very low barrier. Synthetic fuels, just as a remark, they will make aviation the most sustainable mode, which is important for your business. And the last one is, tourism. All the signs are on green, but I know that there are a lot of problems. But we have to innovate ourselves out of these problems. AI will help with that one. But actually, let me put it differently. You have to innovate us out of problems. And I, beforehand, would like to wholeheartedly, in advance, thank you for that. Thank you very much.